So I haven't really branched off or wanted to branch off, and I'm just trying to hone in and really focus on sneakers and doing the best I can with sneakers with the time I have.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Reseller's Journey. Here is your host, eBay Joey.
Welcome to A Reseller's Journey Season 2. I am your host, eBay Joey. Today's guest is a young gun in the reselling game. He has over 2,700 followers on Instagram, and you can find him posting all of his finds from the floor to the ceiling. He goes by the name Pablo.C.3, but his schoolmates call him Pablo. Welcome, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite, and I feel like this will be a good talk. I haven't done one of these in a while, so.
Yeah, man. I think we got to give a shout out to Matt Klein Hustle for linking us up, man. Actually, I had told him when I interviewed him that some people have DM'd me that they wanted me to interview you for the show. So to link up, man, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Matt's a great guy. I love
Yeah.
Matt. We'll probably get to it, but we roomed in Vegas, so I'm glad he recommended me in any sort of way to anybody. So I'll take it.
Yeah, man. I think we're playing basketball together, man. I don't know if we were on the same team or if you're guarding Matt, but you were definitely there, man, on the court.
I was definitely there watching for the most part, but I was there in spirit, I was there.
Awesome, man. Well, the show is called A Reseller's Journey, and I think people are going to be excited to hear your journey and how you got started, man. So let's get it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
start.
So how did you come up with your name Pablo.C.3?
So actually, I go way back. Like I think since I was like six, like some kindergarten, something like that. People sometimes call me, or like abbreviation is like PC3. So Pablo, and then Cuellar, my last name, and then I'm the third because my dad and my grandpa are also Pablo. So Pablo.C.3, basically.
Okay. No relation to CP3, huh? The basketball player?
Nope, none at all. But it's the simplest way to kind of put a name to myself.
Nice, man. Now, what's the origin of your last name? I never heard of that before.
I also have no idea, but I think I think it's I've heard from conversations I think it might be Spaniard a bit, but I
Okay.
that's the only information I know.
Okay. Well, we'll keep it at that then. So where are you based out of, Pablo?
I am South Florida. Um, yeah, South Florida.
Okay. Yeah. Now, were you born and raised in the South Florida area?
So I was, interesting enough, I was actually born in Kent, a town in England. My parents, so my dad went to college there. My mom moved over there. I was made there. And then after a year, they were like, fuck this cold weather. I want to get out of here. And
Uh-huh.
then basically when I was like 2 or 3 or something like that, we moved over here. And yeah, so basically I've grown up here my whole life, but I'm technically British.
All right, man. That's pretty. So you would be considered an international reseller.
Yeah. I have 3 passports. I have 3 passports.
All right. No, that's cool, man. So are you doing this full time or part time?
So before currently it's part-time, full-time, it's a mix, but it's basically my job, I guess, in a sense, which I think actually just to kind of attach something to what we're saying right now, interesting that Daily Refinement, Chris has said several times is that this is really more kind of like a job dependent on how you build it, how you structure your your page and how you sell and what you sell. So really, I do think it's kind of a job. Um, and I would say it's a full-time, part-time because I'm studying, but I'm basically making a full-time income and I'm putting in part-time work. So
Yeah, man. I think even as engineers, one thing that I learned about those guys is that how could they get the maximum output with the least amount of input. And I think it kind of carries over to a business, right? Like even for businesses that have a square footage or a store, you want to maximize that dollar amount based on your square footage. So the smaller the size of your business, but the bigger the volume, that's a really good model. So I completely agree. So what motivated you to get started in reselling?
Being broke as a teenager. But no, really, I've always been I have a very addictive personality. So I've since I was young, I would do sports all day, every day. Then I would do other activities like gaming, and I was addicted to that for a while. And I wanted to be the best. And then when I started, I remember my third month. It was in 2017, December, my third month. It was crazy. I think I reached like 10,000 in sales on just my third month, but because I got extremely lucky with the finds I found, which I could turn over in literally a day because I just sold them to bulk buyers, and basically that kind of lucky start really projected, or I kind of projected that I would keep doing it, and it just kind of flowed. It just kind of flowed. So I really like picking up projects, and if they initially have some sort of traction, I'll just let it kind of flow by itself and just go with it, you know?
Yeah, so it sounds like to me you like challenges as well. And the various projects you've had growing up, once you feel you've conquered that, do you feel like, yeah, it's time to move on?
That's a very we're like 5 minutes in and you're questioning like my being. But yeah, that's something I think I struggle with a bit is getting bored, at least I guess for lack of a better word. It, like you reach a certain stage and then it might not be your final stage, but you get to that stage and you're like, wow, this is great. But and then you start to think, okay, what if I think this way once I reach my final goal? Will it be worth it? So that's kind of like the thought process of my projects and how I go with it. So for now, reselling, it's been up and down a lot actually. I would say realistically more down than up. But now I feel like I'm back on an upswing for maybe 3 months now, and it's obvious that sales and all that are attributed to being down and up yourself and how much effort you put in. So I'm keeping it rolling, and in 2020, I'm gonna keep it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think for the people that are listening via the podcast and they cannot see you, you're a very young guy. Can you tell us how old you are?
So I'm 18. Birthday's in end of May.
Oh, okay, cool, man. Yeah, my daughter, she was born May 7th of this year.
Oh,
So
cool, cool, cool.
yeah, shout out to all the people born in May. So you said that when you first got started and what motivated you, how old were you at that point since you're 18 years old now?
So 2017 October, I'm bad at math.
It's okay.
It's I don't know, 16, something like that.
Okay, so
16, yeah.
16, 17 years old, you get started into reselling. Now, did you you said you got into the sneaker game. What shoes did you find right off the bat?
So I I never thought, actually, funny enough, I never thought I would remember my first sale, but I clearly remember my first sale. It was a Nike Mercurial Vapor 11 or 10 or something like that. The green and black and blue ones that were popping up at Burlington with I don't know if you remember you were with sneakers and that type of thing, but in Burlington when those Mercurials were flooded, the purple and orange ones, there might have been like 500 plus listings on eBay. I
Wow.
think that like that one was like my first sale, which I got back then. Cleats were 1999, and I sold it for like 90, and it was, I think it sold in less than 2 days, and I was like very astonished.
Yeah, man, I think that's what gets, some people started. I mean, anytime you have success in the beginning, you can contribute it to luck, or you can just contribute it to the person that's behind it, that there's some type of skill set. But you just gotta keep going. You sold it. What happened next?
Yeah. So um, honestly, the first funny enough, I haven't thought about this in a second, but that first month I was sourcing on my bike. I had I have two Rosses next to me and two Marshalls next to me, so I would bike to and from. Um, and funny enough, my bike got stolen.
Oh,
And basically, what kept me going after the first sale was really just, again, kind of like my addictive mentality of just uh, kind of repetition. I wasn't necessarily thinking like, oh, I'm gonna make a lot of money with this or that, because I think something good for beginners or people that are just starting out is not looking at Instagram at all,
mhm.
except for very vital information that might be like certain groups of people. But I was not on Instagram at all. I had no idea the community existed. So I wasn't like, oh, look at all these people making X and Y percentage of money and all that. So I just, it became like a game to me. It's like, oh, I can sell 20 to 90. Okay, let me try that again. And so it just kind of spiraled.
Yeah, for a 16, 17-year-old that wants to make money, what made you like? Were your parents supportive of this, or were they kind of requesting that you kind of create something, or was it like a joke within a family member? What take us through the process that got you started at that age?
So I think, well, obviously everybody says this, but I think my parents are legitimately the best parents in the world because they they work extremely hard, but they're also extremely open to me and my sisters and whatever project we want to do. So I've even historically with other projects I've done, once I get to a certain level or goal, I basically I would have I tell them, hey, can I maybe do school online? And they would say, yeah, okay, go ahead, do that. So another funny moment which I'll always remember for the rest of my life is one day I was going to high school. I hate school. I really hate school. I think
Hmm.
it's good, but it's such a drag. But
Yeah.
it was my junior year when I started, and my sister was doing her last year, and she was doing online as well. And we were driving up to the school, and I told my mom, "Hey, can I do online?" Like it was very like in 10 seconds we decided. And she was like, "Yeah, that's fine. You want to drive back home?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." So I think I share that with my parents where we're just very kind of go-getters and we just do what we want, respecting other people, not harming anybody while we're doing what we want. But I think they they were very supportive and very open, and they were thrilled at the fact that I was doing something after being done with sports.
Yeah, I mean, similar story happened, to our buddy Matt, where he had to hang up the cleats, and I think for you, you found out very early, within 16, 17 years old, that you're not going to pursue your athletic career, but you need to, as you call it, pursue a different project and have these goals. Now, what are you sourcing?
Just sneakers, 100% sneakers. Again, that's kind of to do with my up and down with reselling. Um, I, I mean, it's a little controversial to say, but I genuinely I feel like I have a very twisted view of how to make money since I started so young.
Hmm.
Um, that I have this little like sense in my head where it's like I don't really care to expand or anything like that because this hasn't really brought me any kind of external happiness except for kind of money coming in, which is nice. So I haven't really branched off or wanted to branch off, and I'm just trying to hone in and really focus on sneakers and doing the best I can with sneakers with the time I have.
Yeah, for me, man, I'm 36 years old, and this is the most I've ever made in my life, with my profession and with my hustle. But on the monetary aspect, it's never going to make you happy, man.
Oh,
People
for
that are
sure.
million Yeah, people that are millionaires, they'll tell you like, I'm not happy with 1 mil. You're
Hmm.
gonna want 2 mil and 3 mil, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think what's important, and maybe you realize that, but reselling is not the end game for you. Leveraging your business or leveling up, it's not the end game. It's working right now because it brings you an income, but who knows where it'll go from there.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure. I think
yeah.
it's my launching pad.
Oh, absolutely, man. Even in my profession, I'm a salesman, and a lot of people will say that they took a job in the sales field because it was a launching pad and it allowed them to go to another company to work in sales. Now, for you, with the reselling, and that's your only income, you become an entrepreneur. Like, you can do anything you want. If you want to go work for somebody, Pablo, you can go work for somebody. If you want to go create up a startup, you can go create a startup at any moment. So you really have the world at your hands right now.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll probably discuss it later when we talk about school, but that's part of what I'm doing currently, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, we'll touch on that later in the podcast. Now, when you're sourcing just sneakers, where are you getting these items from?
So it's the same thing as everybody else, really. It's outlets. I mean, for me, it's 100% outlets because I kind of decided Burlington's, Ross, Marshalls are um to some degree a waste of time. The ROI really isn't there to drive to and from, but also because I'm very fortunate that my outlets are amazing and I have several around me. So, and then I've basically just built relationships within those outlets, and once again, this has been repeated 1,000 times, but talking to the manager and having the manager's number and really getting to know that person and possibly getting them a gift card here and there, or getting them a coffee when you come in, that'll take you 1,000 miles ahead of some random guy that'll come in and be like, hey, give me this, give me that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Even in the sales field, we call them gatekeepers, or we'll call them decision makers. Now, for me as a salesman, I deal with cabinet makers. And sometimes, Pablo, the person that makes a decision, or that can buy the product, is not the owner of the business. The owner will allow an employee to make that decision. So for me, I got to navigate and be like, okay, who is my target? And then that's where you say bringing in the coffee, the Starbucks, eating pizza with these guys. But I think for a lot of resellers, they don't really understand the business aspect, or maybe they don't see the investment of getting to know a manager or an assistant manager, or maybe doing a survey. I remember I went into a Marshalls, and it was the same Marshalls that I would keep going into, and I got to know the one of the assistant managers, and she's like, hey, I know what you're doing. I'm okay with it, but do me a favor. She's like, do the surveys and don't return anything to my store. And so I worked out this deal with her, and I said, I'll do that, but you got to tell me when this stuff is coming in. And so she would text me and say, hey, I got a shipment, or she'll text me and say, you know what, nothing came in. But it was really beneficial, and that store became like a real money maker for me, Pablo. So I'm glad that it worked out for you. Do you know roughly how long it took you to build that relationship?
I mean, it's ongoing really because it's not just one or two managers, you know. In these stores, they rotate managers all the time. So for example, like my first real kind of connection I had with the manager, I think that took me like 6 months. And actually, it took me, so I know there were like three other resellers going to the same spot pretty consistently, kind of on a weekly basis. And they would also kind of try to talk to her and all that stuff. So I kind of, I didn't necessarily, yeah, I kind of overbought to some extent to kind of be their number one person. Um, and I overbought, but let's say like I have a good find and I say, hey, give me 10. Everybody else says, give me 10. I'd be like, okay, give me 20. And so eventually that led me to being able to go into the store whenever I wanted to, basically an hour and a half early. So I think that's where that started. And then kind of doing that, not necessarily overbuying with everybody else, but kind of realizing that I can offer, purchase power ability to these stores. once I kept growing and growing. And then it just expanded from like knowing one person here, one person there, and that person over there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think um, with these managers, if they want to move product through their stores, hit their bonuses, hit their goals, it's wise to get with someone like you, a bulk buyer that's going to come in, and buy 20 units compared to the other people buying 10, and moving product off the shelves, and maybe they can get some recognition for creating sales, and then ultimately they might get promoted. So how much did you start off with to get started in reselling?
So I started off with $400. I had from high school. I might have, I don't know, done something for my friends or something, and I actually owed somebody $700. So I took that 400 and flipped that to, oh, like, I don't know, whatever it might have been, like 900 or something, and then gave the 800 back, and then I kind of restarted, and then it spiraled out of control really in those first 3 months.
Awesome, awesome. So what is your business model as a bulk buyer compared to when you first got started, with the Burlington cleats?
Yeah, so when you start, I think everybody has to go through this. If you don't have the capital or the knowledge, you have to hustle, and you really have to go to the Ross, the stores, okay, yeah, those stores, and really just go as much as you can, just to learn first of all about what's good, what's not good, and that's just kind of a tablespoon size of what the actual sneaker reselling market is like. So initially it was just doing that, and I remember driving with my mom for 8 hours consistently those first 5 6 months, probably three times a week. And once again, this is why I say I love my parents. Like, my mom would come, and she would genuinely be very excited to kind of come with me for like a 9 to 5 trip to all these Rosses and Marshalls. But then I kind of realized, this is not really going to take me to the next step. So then I gravitated towards the outlets, and I have I have four Nike outlets, and then like three other outlets that will be not named.
All
but
right. No,
um
that's
but
cool.
yeah. But then the outlet game, then it's bulk, and the margins decrease a little bit. But it's just consistency really. It's the same game, just at a higher level really.
Yeah, so the volume. So, are you looking at a certain percentage to profit off of your buys, or is it a certain dollar amount you look at rather than the percentages? What does Pablo think when he's doing a big purchase?
So what I do, um, I think I'm very pragmatic. So when I go in, and I basically go for, I kind of memorize it. I have a 25.57% net month, like average usually. So it's 25.5 to 26% net. Uh, and so I basically look, and I can do it very quickly, just kind of uh, ballparking the numbers. Like, if there's something at 50, I know if I can sell it at 115, I'm fine. 110 possibly, depending if it's without box. Maybe I could do cheaper shipping, that type of thing. But then it's very kind of quick and pragmatic. And if I know if it's 115, I'm like, cool, take it all. And if I know it sells well, just take it all. That's basically my thought process. But obviously kind of look at the sizes and all that. But I just give me volume. I'll take it all.
Yeah, what are you trying to reach? I know this is your project, this is a goal. What is the goal, and where you're at currently, and then where do you want to go?
So I think, again, this is a great question, because this is something I've been kind of battling with, because I've gone into school. I think I plateaued when I started school. I really wanted to reach um, 200, a little like 210,000 in inventory, and then just sustain that and replenish that. and I was gonna get there by the end of this year or end of January. But then I got into school, and basically from there, from August, I just started, or September really, I started saving and just replenishing from where I was. So in September, I basically plateaued my inventory at like 145,000. um and now it's just replenishing, and like I've said, there's been a lot of downs where I just don't go sourcing because I genuinely hate it sometimes, because it's just it's a little infuriating, like when you go and they say they don't have anything, and you're just like, I really need this? And it's like, and obviously again, it's, I think it has to do with my age as well, and maybe wanting to branch out and do something else. But I think I plateaued there at like 140, 145, and selling roughly, I'd say 15 to 18% uh, sell through a month. And I think I'm just gonna stay there comfortably, not have a lot of overhead, and just save.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, man. Earlier you talked about that, this is a part-time thing. You said part-time, full-time, but you're making full-time money. What's a ballpark of what you're making annually for someone that's listening, that, these are some numbers that some people that are listening want to reach one day. What kind of salary can they anticipate within a ballpark?
Yeah, so I think where I got is very realistic for somebody to reach in 2 to 3 years. Because, and it depends where you live, obviously. But so my annual sales are this year they're being capped off at like 250, hoping to reach 260, but it'll probably be 255, something like that, gross.
Okay.
And then I'm netting close to 70, and yeah, like 70, almost on the dot. So I mean, that's again a rough estimate of 255 to 70 net. And obviously my goal was to be six figures, but um, I again, that's kind of the discussion in my head of, do I really want to do this just to gain more money? Does it actually give me any sort of gain outside of monetary gain? Yeah.
No, I got you. That's impressive, man. I think, there's a lot of people that want to go full time, and I think that answer really does help them because, you see people on Instagram and they post these big numbers, right? But in reality, we don't know their profit margins. We don't know their business. But I think what you've just explained really helps someone out, where it's like, okay, if I want to go full time and, have this much in inventory, this is how much I'm going to make. And I think it's, really something to consider.
And I think especially nowadays, it's very, very possible with not only eBay but StockX, Go, Poshmark. If you're able to manage all those four, which by the way, I really only do eBay and some Poshmark, which 2020 my goal is, which right now I'm actually working on, is really listing everything and cross listing a StockX and Go, and being able to manage that. um, if I can do those numbers on eBay and Posh, and I slack from time to time, I definitely think that people have the opportunity and the ability to reach those numbers by their third year, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, one thing that I was thinking about as you were speaking, talking about your inventory and your buying power, um, are you are you using all cash or do you use credit cards? What is your mix that you use to run your business?
So I mean, now it's all credit card because I have a 2% cash back on everything, so
Yeah.
everything is credit card. But yeah, it's credit card, and then I immediately pay it off. Or if it's the beginning of the month and I can buy, I don't know, 300 pairs or something, I'll pay it off by the end of the month.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And then as I was, getting prepared for this interview, I did a little bit of research on you that was available on your Instagram, because you don't post too much, but I've been checking out your stories here and there. You said you're not a big fan of school, but now you're in school. Take us through the process of why you decided to go and then what you're studying.
Yeah. So I think I think a lot of people that dislike school, at least at college, I think everybody for the most part dislikes high school because it's very tedious. Uh, but I think disliking college is might be the wrong perspective. I think it's a better thing to say like it might not be the right path for you. But for me, I kind of figured that out, and it was very again kind of it was very it just happened naturally where the school is 20 minutes away from my house, and my sister graduated with the director of the program that I'm in, and basically from there I talked to him about my ventures slash startup that I'm starting, and basically that program is to kind of incubate people that have those ideas from all around the world. And so that's why I don't really think it's college per se, because I didn't go in being like, oh, I want to study, criminal justice or something like that. It was just because it was kind of close, and I could get away from my family to a certain extent, and a healthy extent, and be able to kind of really work my startup with my partners, and do this as well. So that's kind of where that was. So I don't think because if it was really a natural kind of college track, I wouldn't have done it. I don't think.
Yeah, are you trying to complete the course and get a degree?
Yeah, so luckily I got a good scholarship, so I'll stay, and it doesn't take it takes I live on campus, but it doesn't take all day, so as long as it doesn't take over my day, I'll be fine, and I'll try to stay the course, because also like to some degree I think it might not be the best backup, but it's an option of a backup, and also to please my parents to some degree. Not that I necessarily put that on a pedestal, but it's an added bonus.
Yeah, man, I think you're carrying the last name, and for some people that means something to them. I know for me, I graduated community college and I went back, years later, but having that degree, Pablo, it's not like you need it. It's not like you get a degree and then you become a better employee, or I think you do become a better person. I think it does help you think. It has improved various areas in my life as far as accounting. Took some business law. I took some English classes where I learned how to write. And you're reading this and critical thinking that. So I think college is good, and you do hear on the internet, some people are against it, but if you're in a position where you can go, I
Yeah.
would say go. I would say go, because once I got my degree, I'm making more money now because I have a degree and it's an associate's. But at the same time, if I didn't have that degree, I wouldn't have this job. And if I didn't have this job, Pablo, I wouldn't have this house in San Diego. So it's like you gotta pick and choose. But I think you're on the right track, and whatever it is that you decide to do, you're gonna be well off.
And by the way, the degree is social entrepreneurship.
Okay, cool, man. So let's talk a little bit more about you said you have some partners, you're doing some startups. Talk about a project you're currently working on that you could share with the listeners.
So actually, I I wouldn't want to discuss it too much, but I'll say that I have two partners and we're working on it. It has to do with sneakers. Um, I'm very again. I don't think we're basically gonna build in very kind of short one sentence summary is we're building a sustainable sneaker brand with a twist that we saw there was a gap in with other sustainable brands. Um, so a lot of sustainable brands, I don't know if you know them, but like Allbirds, I don't know if you've heard of Allbirds. They
Hmm.
do they had a huge. I think they're in the billions now, but it took them only like 5 years, and they have a sustainable model where their sneakers are made out of sheep wool from New Zealand. So I mean that's kind of like the thought process of making a sustainable sneaker, but a lot of these brands are missing a lot of core components that are in successful brands like Nike and Adidas, that are kind of that are really attractive to the consumer. And I think that's why a lot of sustainable brands kind of lose on a lot of people because they're very boring to some
Mhm.
extent. So that's kind of the very short summary of what I would say right now. But that's definitely I've been discussing it here and there on my Instagram and my stories since I think the summer. But we'll be launching hopefully by the end of next year, and when it comes out, that it's the only thing I'll be talking about. So
All right. Yeah, keep us posted, man. I'm, glad you and a group of people are thinking outside the box. So, as we're recording this episode, eBay came out with some news, and we were talking back and forth from the morning until now that we're recording. But can you kind of, touch on your opinions, Pablo, of the news and just tell the audience, what was going on or what's going on?
2 words, I or wait, 3 words. I love it. But you see, I can't count. But no, it's great. I think it's a step in the right direction. Uh, Maybe it could be a bandage solution for them, which kind of sucks. But for now, with the haziness, it seems good. But I could definitely see them reverting it back. So if you guys don't know, is a sale for sneakers in any category in sneakers from athletic to casual, I believe. Really, anything above $100, there's no fee whatsoever, except for the PayPal fee and shipping and promoted listing, if any. So that's huge. That's basically 10%, and I've been working on it all day, basically kind of readjusting and seeing what the next step should be, and really kind of changing really the thought process, one of sourcing and how I structure my eBay. But I think it's a step in the right direction, hopefully. But I don't know. It's a very strange thing from going to 10% to zero, because a lot of these brands like StockX and Goat, uh, they also have like 9%, but there's no shipping, something like that. So going from that to that, I really hope that eBay planned it out correctly and made a sustainable plan for the future to hold with the no fees for $100 plus purchases, because that would be huge. If it's actually something that they can maintain, I will love eBay. Even with all their 99 problems, I will love eBay if they maintain this.
Yeah, with eBay compared to the other two companies, Goat and StockX, eBay is a bigger animal. It's a bigger beast because they have more than one categories of sales. So they definitely have the advantage. Now, I think within the sneaker department, I think Goat and StockX are definitely they're taking sales away from eBay. They're making their money. But now it seems like, in my opinion, if a shoe's over $100, Pablo, as a parent, as a consumer, I think that's a premium shoe. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so too. Even with with as many sneakers as I own and sell and all that, I would say 100 plus is would be considered a premium sneaker to some degree.
Yes. Yeah. So eBay is still making money on the, I would say, the lower end or the mid tier. So anything from, let's say, $20, let's call it $20 shoe, all the way up to 90. Even 90 is still not premium. It's still within that category, but there's plenty of Nikes that are good quality shoes, but they're just not a premium. So I definitely think it's good for us as sellers. Now, what's the end game and what's the plan for eBay? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, none of us know, but I mean, you're on track, I think. Really, so sales, I think, I don't know, 30 or 40 to 90 or $100 is almost I think it's 68% last time I saw it of the percentage of sneaker sales that they have on their site. So they should, I mean, they should be fine.
Yeah.
Um, if they're not fine, I feel like there's some very, very bad underlying structure going on there that if they can't actually sustain this, then there might be something very fundamentally wrong that should be checked out.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the 80/20. You hear that a lot, the 80/20 rule. And it could be for eBay, because I was talking to a reseller earlier today and we're going back and forth on Instagram. But eBay is known for selling, high-end shoes that are fakes. Not eBay, but they're sellers. And so this has allowed other platforms to now arise where there's verification and the consumer feels safe. So this could definitely be where eBay is shaking the tree, let's say, with the no fees over 100, trying to get the consumer and the reseller to link up, and then maybe they start to restructure this beast or this problem that they have on their hands, Pablo. And you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm surprised that they didn't take the same steps that like a StockX or a Goat would have done, because they usually put zero effort into any update that they do. But
Mhm.
I'm surprised they didn't just kind of like slap on like oh, we'll verify your shoes or something.
Yeah.
So I think this is again like a good launching pad to maybe possibly go from here and then saying like, okay, we'll be more focused on not letting like 1,000 fake listings be up for every 50 real ones. Once that's the biggest thing, and I've talked to so many people about it in all over really, that eBay, even though this is good for competitive pricing as well, uh, there's still that stigma of fakes. And if they can wipe that out or at least minimize it to some extent, eventually, hopefully within the next 1 to 3 years, uh, that'll really catapult them to another level.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned a couple things that eBay could have done. Now, for me, I think more on a psychological standpoint that the human being, they're not a big fan of change. It has to be subtle. It has to be slow. And you can't even see that in history. We won't go in depth, but there's been dictators in history that it's a slow process to control the population and what they believe and what they're going to do, and then it just slowly happens, and then boom, now the dictator's got them how he wants them to have them. And I think with eBay, they notice that they're losing on their high-end sneakers. They know that verification and the fakes on their platform is something that they got to do. So I think they're going in the right direction, and I feel that the things you said, they're probably going to come out to play.
Yeah, I'm so I heard the news and I've been just working. I was working like 11 hours yesterday and I thought today was going to be my rest day. But the news of that came out, and then the $100 coupon with a $300 purchase of sneakers, that was big as well. I saw sales were spiking. In general, people, like, I was just looking around like some certain listings for high-end shoes. There was like maybe 50 sold today, when historically within the past month 50 sold. So I mean that kind of jolted them as well. But that was kind of like a side thing as well. But yeah, hopefully they do come to play and they don't mess it up, because I love eBay, but I'm not married to them. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that I'm, doing new on the show is, asking resellers, what's your biggest L and then what's your biggest W? So in 2019, Pablo, what was your biggest L?
My biggest L would probably be. Are we talking about sneakers or just in general?
Eh, Just in general, whatever you want to share with us, man.
All right. I think an L. Okay, I can relate this to eBay.
Okay.
So when I went to Vegas, as you guys know, I'm 18. Um, I tried to go into a few clubs, and I was I think the biggest L was trying to get into the final eBay party club, and I had it was Matt, Chris, and a few others were helping me get in, and they were in line, and there was probably like 8 or 10 guards kind of covering the line to get in. And then at the Starbucks that was right next to that House of Blues, if whoever went there knows, um, and there was just a SWAT team hanging out while I was sitting there, kind of waiting to jump the fence, and that was the most like nerve-wracking thing of my entire life. But so I jumped over right in time without anybody looking. I run in, and then after 5, 10 good minutes, I get kicked out, and that was I think that was my biggest L because I really like that was the one kind of club I party I really wanted to kind of attend when I went to Vegas. So I was so close. I was so close, but yet so far.
Hey, man, in LA, we're gonna have to take you to MacArthur Park, get you an ID, man. We got that. We'll get you a social too, man. Whatever you need, we'll we'll take care of you. How about W, man? What's the biggest W this year for you?
W for me, I think is um I think W for me really is becoming just progressively becoming more self-aware of who I am as a person with reselling and everything else I do. It's been a huge struggle kind of mentally with the past few years kind of leaving sports, which I didn't really want to because it was because of an injury, and then moving into reselling, which became very tedious and kind of soulless after a while. So I think this year really I've kind of become one with myself, and I know what I have to do, and I just have to do it, and I know why I do reselling, and I know why I should keep doing reselling, but I also know why I should stop doing reselling at some point, and I know why I should do this other thing that I want to do. So I think I finally started to kind of piece the puzzle together just through experience and going through stuff. I think
Nice,
that in
man.
general is the biggest W.
Awesome, awesome. All right, man. So it's that time, rapid fire, new segment on the show. Anything that comes to mind, whether it's a word or a sentence, feel free. So you ready?
First word to mind.
Yeah, whatever,
All
man.
right.
Let's just. All right, ready? Jordan 1.
Jordan 2.
How about Jordan 11?
Bad.
Jordan 4.
Awful.
Jordan 3.
I also don't like it.
Okay, Jordan 8.
It could have done better.
Jordan 9.
No.
Jordan 6.
It was second favorite Jordan.
Okay. How about the Spizikes?
No.
so
No.
so so what's your favorite pair, man?
No, so I think Jordans it goes for me. I don't really like Jordans. I think they're very overplayed and not too good design wise. But I think Jordan 7 is the one kind of silhouette that to me is very kind of fluid, modern but retro at the same time. I think the 7 I love. The 6 is probably tied with the Jordan 1 for my second, but that's because I literally the 2 is awful. I think the 3 and the 4 and the 5 are um, just a little. I don't know. I think they're not too good looking, but they're hyped just because they were hyped like back in the '90s, so they maintain their kind of glory. But I think they should be kind of archived. But every other model is like it's okay. But I do like the 14s as well. Those are
Okay.
kind of nice.
All right. Where can people find you on social media?
People can find me for now just on Pablo.C.3 on Instagram, or you could probably find me as well, just Pablo.C.3 on Instagram. And that is, yeah, that's all my social media right now.
All right, all right. Well, keep us posted, man. Whatever,
For sure.
you decide to switch it up. So, last question: what have you learned this year in 2019?
What have I learned this year? I have learned to uh, be, I would say, damn, this is a hard one. Uh, Kind of diligent and and more focused, like truly focused. Um, I think, yeah, I think I really learned how to be how to separate my things and just being 100% focused, while maybe in the past I wasn't so focused, and I worked in sprints rather than working in marathons, and it's actually better uh, statistically to work in a good slow marathon pace to get where you want to be. So I think really doing that and focusing on what I have to do and waking up every day and just doing that without complaining or any unnecessary BS is something that I've integrated into my life, and I think that's um, the biggest thing I've learned this year.
Awesome, man. Well said. Pablo.C.3. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and this was great. There's a lot of good questions.
Hey, man, appreciate that. I think the audience probably really appreciate you coming on and telling us your journey, man, and your continue progress in your journey. So, also want to thank the audience for tuning in today. You can find today's guest on Instagram at Pablo.C.3. You can visit the show's website at aresellersjourney.com, where you can find a link to my Instagram at eBay Joey and the show at A Reseller's Journey. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe and follow on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Remember, never forget why you started. Peace.
Bye bye.